The sound of laughter still echoes in my memory from that family dinner 3 years ago. I had just announced my decision to pursue a PhD in biochemical engineering instead of joining the family's chain of manufacturing companies. You'd think I'd declared my intention to become a professional circus clown. What? My Uncle Marcus wiped tears of mirth from his eyes. Another science degree? Haven't you wasted enough time already? My name is Alexandra Morrison, and that dinner marked the beginning of my family's campaign to save me from myself. The Morrisons had built their fortune through practical business sense and hard work, or so they claimed. Scientific research and innovation were for dreamers, not for people who wanted real success. Honestly, Alexandra, my mother sighed, cutting her perfectly cooked steak, when are you going to grow up and join the real world? Your cousins are all running successful divisions of the family business, and you want to play in a laboratory. Around the massive dining table, my successful cousins exchanged knowing smirks. There was Michael, who managed our plastics division despite barely passing his business degree. Jennifer, who headed international sales purely because of her last name. And Timothy, my younger cousin, who had already been promised the CEO position once Uncle Marcus retired. The research I'm working on could revolutionize industrial manufacturing, I tried to explain. The polymer compounds we're developing could reduce production costs by up to 60% while being completely biodegradable. Biodegradable plastics? Timothy snorted. That's your big plan? Our customers want cheap and reliable, not some tree hugger fantasy. I gripped my fork tighter, remembering the countless hours in the lab, the breakthroughs we were on the verge of achieving. The market for sustainable materials is growing exponentially. If we don't adapt, enough. Uncle Marcus slammed his hand on the table. Alexandra, this family has built its success on proven methods, not theoretical research. It's time you stopped this nonsense and took your place in the company. A real position, my mother added. In accounting, perhaps. Or human resources. I looked around at their faces, dismissive, condescending, so certain of their own superiority. They had no idea what I was really working on, the potential of what my team had discovered. I'm not stopping my research, I said quietly. Then you're on your own, Uncle Marcus declared. No more family support, no more trust fund access. If you want to waste your time in a lab, you'll do it without Morrison money. My mother actually dabbed at her eyes with a silk napkin, as if my career choice was causing her physical pain. Think about your future, darling. Who's going to want to marry a perpetual student? I don't need Morrison money, I replied, standing up. And I don't need your approval either. That was the last family dinner I attended. They thought cutting off my trust fund would bring me crawling back to the family business. What they didn't know was that I'd never touched that money. Every penny I had came from research grants and careful investment of my own earnings. More importantly, they had no idea how close my team was to a breakthrough that would change everything. The next 2 years were a blur of 18-hour days in the lab, endless grant applications, and determination fueled by their mockery. Every snide comment from my cousins, every disappointed phone call from my mother, every dismissive email from Uncle Marcus just pushed me to work harder. Dr. Chin, my research advisor, became more than a mentor. She became the supporter my family refused to be. They mock what they don't understand, she told me late one night as we reviewed test results. But understanding is what will give you power over them. He was right. While my family was busy running their proven business methods into the ground, refusing to innovate or adapt, my team was making breakthrough after breakthrough. The first patent application was filed 6 months after that family dinner. A new manufacturing process that could reduce industrial waste by 80% while cutting production costs in half. The second patent followed 3 months later, a biodegradable polymer that was stronger and cheaper than traditional plastics. This is revolutionary, Dr. Chin said when our first batch of test results came back. Do you understand what you've created? I did. I understood exactly what these patents would mean not just for the industry but for my family's businesses. Their outdated methods would become obsolete almost overnight. But I kept quiet. Let them think I was just playing scientist. Let them believe their empire was secure. The first hint that something was changing came when our research was published in leading scientific journals. Suddenly, major manufacturing companies were calling, wanting to license our technology. Investment offers started pouring in. My cousin Jennifer was the first to notice. She called me out of the blue, her voice suspiciously friendly. Alexandra, darling. I just read the most interesting article about some new manufacturing process. Isn't that the kind of thing you're working on? Something like that, I replied vaguely. Well, you simply must come present it to our board. Family helping family, right? I almost laughed at her transparent attempt. Sorry, Jennifer. The patents aren't for sale to family members. Patents? What patents? I hung up, imagining her frantic call to Uncle Marcus. They would be discovering soon enough that their competitive advantage was slipping away. Their biggest clients were already calling me, interested in licensing the very technology they had mocked. But I wasn't done yet. The biggest breakthrough was still under wraps, hidden in secured labs and protected by military-grade encryption. Something that would make our previous patents look like warm-up exercises. Are you sure about this timeline? Dr. Chen asked as we prepared for the final phase of testing. Once we publish, there's no going back. I looked at the latest email from my mother, full of guilt trips and thinly veiled threats about my inheritance. I'm sure. It's time they learned what a worthless science degree can really do. The next morning, as I drove to the lab in my modest car, no Morrison luxury vehicles for me, I spotted my cousin Timothy's Porsche outside our research building. He was trying to charm information out of our receptionist. Come on, sweetheart, I heard him say as I walked in. Surely you can tell me what kind of research Dr. Morrison is working on? We're family after all. Sorry, Mr. Morrison, she replied with professional coolness. All our research is confidential. I cleared my throat. Hello, Timothy. Looking for something? He spun around, his practiced charm failing to hide his desperation. Alexandra. I was just in the neighborhood 20 miles from your office? How convenient. I swiped my keycard heading toward the secure labs. Give Uncle Marcus my regards. And Timothy? Don't bother trying to hack our systems again. We noticed the attempts last week. His face reddened. We're just trying to understand what you're working on. As family. Family. I paused at the security door. Funny how I'm only family when you need something from me. I left him standing there, his expensive suit and luxury car suddenly looking like cheap costumes. He had no idea that in less than 24 hours, our latest patent application would be public. No idea that their entire manufacturing process was about to become obsolete. No idea that their worthless relative was about to become the most sought-after inventor in the industry. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't proving them wrong immediately. Sometimes it's letting them slowly realize just how catastrophically wrong they've been all along. The day our latest patent application went public, I sat in my lab's conference room, watching chaos unfold across the manufacturing industry. Our breakthrough wasn't just another incremental improvement, it was a complete paradigm shift in industrial processing. Alexandra, Dr. Chen called from her office. You need to see this. On her screen, Morrison Manufacturing's stock was in free fall. The market had taken less than an hour to understand what our patent meant. Any company not using our technology would be left behind, struggling with outdated, expensive processes that couldn't possibly compete. My phone hadn't stopped buzzing since the announcement. First came the industry calls, major corporations practically begging for licensing meetings. Then came the family calls, their desperation growing with each unanswered message. Your cousin Michael is in the lobby again, my assistant reported. He's refusing to leave without seeing you. I smiled, pulling up the security feed. Michael, who had once mockingly asked if my little experiments would ever make any money, was now pacing frantically in his expensive suit. Let him wait, I replied. I have more important meetings. Those meetings were with the CEOs of the world's largest manufacturing companies. One by one they came to my lab, these titans of industry who made my uncle look like a small-time operator. They all wanted the same thing, access to our patents. Name your price, the CEO of Global Manufacturing said, sliding a blank check across the table. We need this technology. I quoted a figure that would have made my family faint. He didn't even blink before signing. By evening, we had licensing agreements worth more than Morrison Manufacturing's entire annual revenue. But I still hadn't responded to my family's increasingly frantic messages. Alexandra, please, my mother's voicemail pleaded. Your uncle needs to speak with you. This is about family. I deleted it without responding. They were about to learn exactly what my worthless degree had created. The next morning I finally agreed to a meeting, not with my desperate cousins, but with Morrison Manufacturing's board of directors. Uncle Marcus hadn't even been told I was coming. I walked into their boardroom exactly on time, dressed not in a flashy designer suit but in my lab coat. The message was clear. I wasn't here as a Morrison but as Dr. Alexandra Morrison, the scientist they had mocked. What is she doing here? Uncle Marcus demanded as I took my seat. This is a serious board meeting about About your company's imminent obsolescence? I interrupted smoothly. That's exactly why I'm here. The board members shifted uncomfortably. They had all seen the numbers, understood what our patents meant for their future. Our analysis suggests, the CFO began carefully, that without access to the new processing technology, our production costs will be approximately 300% higher than our competitors within 6 months. More like 3 months, I corrected, opening my laptop. Would you like to see the actual data? I projected our research results onto the screen. Years of work, countless breakthroughs, all leading to this moment. The board members leaned forward, their faces growing increasingly pale. This is impossible, Uncle Marcus whispered, but his voice lacked conviction. No, Uncle Marcus. This is science. The same science you called worthless. The same research you said was a waste of time. I clicked to the next slide, a list of companies that had already licensed our technology. It included every major player in the industry except Morrison Manufacturing. You need our patents, I stated simply. Without them, your company won't survive the quarter. Fine, Uncle Marcus growled. Name your price. Your family, after all. I smiled, remembering all the family dinners where they had belittled my choices. That's the interesting part. I'm not offering a license to Morrison Manufacturing. The room erupted in chaos. Board members shouted questions. Uncle Marcus turned purple with rage, and my cousins, who had snuck into the back of the room, looked like they might faint. You can't do this. Timothy yelled. We're your family. Family. I stood up slowly. Was it family when you mocked my research? When you called my degree worthless? When you tried to force me into accounting because science wasn't a real career? We were trying to help you, my mother said from the doorway. I hadn't even noticed her arrive. No, you were trying to control me. To force me into your narrow vision of success. I turned back to the board. But that's not why I'm refusing to license our technology to you. I clicked to my final slide, a detailed analysis of Morrison Manufacturing's environmental violations, unsafe practices, and ethical shortcuts. Your company represents everything wrong with the old way of doing things. You cut corners, ignore environmental impacts, and prioritize short-term profit over long-term sustainability. I met each board member's eyes. Our patents aren't just about cost savings. They're about changing the industry for the better. We can change, Uncle Marcus pleaded. Whatever you want. Too late. I closed my laptop. As of this morning, I've signed exclusive licensing agreements with your competitors. They've also agreed to hire any Morrison Manufacturing employees who want to work for companies that actually care about innovation. The impact of my words hit them like a physical blow. Their company, their legacy, their empire, all crumbling because they had underestimated the scientist in the family. One more thing, I added, walking to the door. Remember when you cut off my trust fund? I took that money, which I'd never touched, and used it to fund scholarships for young scientists. The next generation of researchers who will make your outdated methods even more obsolete. The aftermath was exactly what I'd predicted. Within months, Morrison Manufacturing's clients had jumped ship to competitors using our technology. The company's value plummeted, and the board finally forced Uncle Marcus into early retirement. My cousins scrambled to find new jobs, but their family name no longer carried the weight it once did. Some of them actually applied to companies using our patents, only to learn that previous experience with outdated technologies wasn't considered an asset. 1 year after that board meeting, I stood in my new research facility, a gleaming complex dedicated to sustainable innovation. Dr. Chin had become my full partner, and our team had grown to include some of the brightest minds in science. Dr. Morrison, my assistant called. Your mother is here again. I looked through my office window. My mother stood in the lobby, clutching her designer handbag like a shield. She looked older, less certain of herself. She says she just wants to talk, my assistant added. Something about understanding too late. I thought about all the family dinners where she had dismissed my dreams. All the time she had tried to make me feel small for choosing science over the family business. Tell her Dr. Morrison is busy in the lab, I replied. She can submit a meeting request through proper channels, just like anyone else. Later that evening, as I reviewed proposals for our next research project, I received an email from a familiar address. Uncle Marcus, writing from his retirement. I was wrong. Your degree wasn't worthless. It was priceless. I wish I had understood that sooner. I didn't respond. The time for family reconciliation had passed, replaced by something more valuable: vindication. My worthless science degree had not only revolutionized an industry but had also taught my family the most expensive lesson of their lives. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just proving them wrong. It's changing the world in exactly the way they said you couldn't, then watching as they realize that their mockery of your dreams has left them behind in a world they no longer understand. As for me, I spend my days in the lab working on new breakthroughs, surrounded by people who understand that science isn't just about profit. It's about progress. And every time I hear about another Morrison manufacturing facility closing down, I smile, knowing that somewhere, a young scientist is being told their dreams are impractical. But now they have my story to prove otherwise. Because in the end, the degree they called worthless didn't just make me wealthy. It made me powerful enough to choose who gets to survive in the new world I helped create. And that power came not from the Morrison name, but from the very thing they despised. The relentless pursuit of scientific truth. The patents they desperately need. They're still not for sale to family. Some things, like respect for science and innovation, can't be bought. They have to be learned the hard way. Just ask the Morrisons. They learned it the hardest way of all.